The night was electric, the air thick with the scent of sweat, alcohol, and the pulsating beats of the DJ's music. Eclipse Club, the most popular nightclub in the city, was packed to the brim with graduates celebrating the end of an era. Among the crowd were three cousins, Ethan, Marcus, and Jake, who had decided to make this night unforgettable. They danced, drank, and laughed, their inhibitions melting away with every shot and every beat. As the night wore on, the cousins found themselves in the elevator, heading down to the parking lot. The DJ, a strikingly handsome yet eerily enigmatic figure, stepped in just as the doors were closing. His pale skin glowed under the fluorescent lights, and his dark eyes seemed to pierce through their souls. "Your music was insane tonight, man," Ethan slurred, his words slightly muffled by the alcohol. "That mix you dropped at midnight? Fire!" The DJ smiled, a slow, unsettling grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Thank you," he said in a voice that was smooth yet carried an undertone of something darker. "I'm heading to another party now. Private, exclusive. You three seem like you know how to have a good time. Why don't you join me? Drinks and food are on me." The cousins, still riding the high of the night, exchanged excited glances. "Hell yeah," Marcus exclaimed. "Let's keep this party going." The DJ led them to his car, a sleek black vehicle that seemed to absorb the light around it. As they drove, the city lights faded into darkness, and the roads became narrower, more desolate. The cousins, now feeling the effects of the alcohol wearing off, began to notice the eerie silence that enveloped them. Where exactly are we going?" Jake asked, his voice tinged with unease. "You'll see," the DJ replied, his tone cryptic. Finally, the car came to a stop in the middle of nowhere. The cousins stepped out, their hearts pounding as they realized they were standing next to an abandoned burial ground. The air was cold, and the only sound was the rustling of dead leaves in the wind. "What the hell, man?" Ethan said, his voice trembling. "Where's the club?" The DJ turned to them, his face now shadowed in the moonlight. "Follow me," he said, his voice low and commanding. Reluctantly, the cousins followed him into the burial ground, their footsteps crunching on the dry grass. The DJ stopped in front of a grave, its headstone cracked and weathered. He sat down on it, his expression calm, almost serene. "This is my club," he said, his voice echoing in the stillness. Before the cousins could react, the DJ laughed, a sound that sent chills down their spines, and then lay down on the grave. In an instant, two ghostly hands emerged from the earth, their fingers long and skeletal, and dragged him into the grave. The cousins screamed, their voices echoing through the night as they turned and ran. They reached the car, only to watch in horror as it dissolved into thin air, leaving nothing but a faint wisp of smoke. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped. The burial ground seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction, the graves now appearing closer, almost as if they were closing in. "What the hell is going on?" Marcus shouted, his voice breaking. "We need to get out of here," Jake cried, his eyes darting around in terror. But no matter which way they ran, they always ended up back at the same grave. The air grew colder, and the silence was now broken by faint whispers that seemed to come from all around them. The cousins huddled together, their breaths visible in the freezing air. "This can't be real," Ethan muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "This has to be a nightmare." As if in response, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The grave where the DJ had disappeared began to crack open, and the same ghostly hands emerged, reaching out for them. The cousins tried to run, but their feet were rooted to the spot. One by one, the hands grabbed them, pulling them into the grave. Their screams were swallowed by the darkness as the earth closed over them. The next thing they knew, they were jolted awake, their hearts racing and their bodies drenched in sweat. They were back in Eclipse Club, lying on the sofas in the VIP section. The music was still playing, and the crowd was still dancing, oblivious to their ordeal. "What the hell just happened?" Marcus asked, his voice shaky. I think we all had the same dream," Ethan said, his eyes wide with fear. Jake nodded, his face pale. It felt so real. The DJ, the burial ground, the grave. As they sat there trying to make sense of what had happened, the DJ from their dream walked past them, his eyes meeting theirs for a brief moment. He smiled that same unsettling smile and gave them a small nod before disappearing into the crowd. The cousins looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. They had all seen the same thing, felt the same terror. And as they left the club that night, they couldn't shake the feeling that the DJ's invitation had been more than just a dream. The next morning, news broke that Eclipse Club had been built on the site of an old burial ground, and that several people had gone missing over the years after attending late-night parties there. The cousins never spoke of that night again, but they all knew. The DJ's club was real, and it was waiting for its next guests.